We got the 5 Foot Nothing, 100 Nothing, and Fighting Irish Faithful pod beginning in 5, 4, 3.
This is the Fighting Irish Faithful show and the
5 Foot Nothing, 100 Nothing podcast rolled into one.
Yes, and if you smash those two together, you get the Fighting 5 Foot Irish Nothing Faithful show. I don't know what that's going to look like from a marketing standpoint, but we'll see if ND Nation wants to link us. Welcome, everyone, to the show. This is something we've been trying to do. If you caught my show last week, we tried to get this going then. It didn't quite work out, which is totally fine because it's the off season. And but here we are. This will be my last show, technically, for the 2021 season. I'm going to go dark with Lent and the spring and just not a whole lot's going on. But my co-host of the 5 Foot Nothing pod, when's the last time you had a show?
Dude, January, I was looking. It's like everything and anything has just been interrupting or otherwise, or it's been harder than I thought, and I'm glad because the season is over, like you just alluded to. If this happened during the season, I would have been panicking and freaking out and been up to like 2 in the morning just finding a way to record. But it just hasn't presented itself. But where you're gonna go dark, I just transitioned. In about a month, I did it last year, my first year. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna cover March Madness. I enjoy it, and there's not a ton of Notre Dame football. You know, I'll do 10 minutes to open the show, and then I talk March Madness for...
So your show is not exclusive to Notre Dame football like mine, is what you're getting at.
Basically. And the reason
Unless you're talking about Gonzaga basketball, then you may have to invite me and I'll hop on. I'm actually wearing Gonzaga a Gonzaga shirt right now, believe it or not. So.
But I only did that because it was my first year of doing it. I didn't have a followers. I'm like, I just need to keep putting out something. And there wasn't, especially like last year, everything was the same. There wasn't all this turnover. So I was like, I got to think of something to talk about. And I do a bracket every year. I got my kids doing it. So that became, I was like, let me just talk about that. It's college sport counts. Notre Dame wasn't in it. Or no, they were. They did make it last year. Just got bounced in the first round.
There you go. Well, that's awesome. So for anyone who's loyal to my show, the Fighting Irish Faithful show, I will. This is kind of a passing of the baton here. You know, we're like a 4x100 relay in track and field, and we're handing the baton. So I don't know if you are the anchor. You're probably recording on anchors. So then you're the last leg before we go into the spring. So
I was asked. I'll take the anchor role.
Nice. Well, and with us, we have obviously you, the guests, the audience, the faithful super fans, as I like to say, but also my brother, Red Snapper 1998. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. Good evening, you guys. 5 Foot Nothing. Great to hear you, man. Glad you're on.
Thank you.
And just kind of winding down. It's dinner time for me on the West Coast, so.
You eat late.
But I do not eat late.
It's 7 o'clock. That's late for most people.
Yeah, I got off of work an hour ago.
All right. Well, hate respect. Well, anyway, let's talk about some Notre Dame football here before we go into March Madness, and I start getting mouthy here regarding Gonzaga still being number 1 in the country. So, for anyone who doesn't know, or if you've been living under a rock and not been reading the latest and greatest coming out of Notre Dame, South Bend, and your favorite blog, that the coaching staff has finally been assembled. This is like the Avengers. The team is, come together. And we have hired Al Golden as a defensive coordinator, Chauncey Stuckey at wide receivers coach, Harry Heaston is back, which we talked a little bit about last week at O-line. Della McCullough is running backs coach, and Brian Mason for special teams. I'm sure there's a couple of other guys in there that I haven't mentioned, but those are kind of the big highlights. So that probably will be the bulk of tonight's show, unless one of our other guests or callers want to say something. So it's really exciting to talk about this. We're kind of doing a new format here. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing a whole lot right now with all of our potential guests. So I'm going to need someone else to be the call screener / invitee person, because Twitter's kind of wigging out on my phone right now. So,
Oh, I got that.
All right, good.
I see Mike Sloan, Coach Parsegian, of course. We got the Wookiee on. Looks like Jason Yeager's on. And Casey from Sluggo.
Yeah, that's
from Sluggo. So
he's being a supportive friend, man. He's got 2 podcasts he runs. If you've listened to the Chop and Beef show, which I've been on, he runs the Chop and Beef show. And
okay.
That's a fun thing.
Is that about like barbecue or brisket or what? What is that?
You would think, but it
That's
has
what it sounds
nothing. Actually, it's what we're doing, but you just go in any direction that it goes. You sit
Got
around, you're talking, and it's.
It sounds a lot like last week's show then, where we went way off into some other place. Yeah. So
it was definitely after dark.
It was after dark. That's what it was named, Fighting Irish Faithful After Dark, because it got a little weird there. So, well, hey, Red Snapper, why don't you bring our first person on? Since I'm gonna hand the keys to the car to you.
Right on. So why don't we go with 5 Foot Nothin Pod's recommendations? Start with Casey. We'll try and keep it kind of truncated.
I don't know if Casey wants to chime in. I was just saying he's listening in to, just listen in.
He's like critiquing. He's got like a clipboard in one hand and a red pen in the other, and he's writing stuff down.
Absolutely. The other thing I recommend is if you guys are slated as just listeners right now and you got something to say right off the bat, go ahead and hit the request to speak button, because
there you go.
Show up.
There you go. I just got confirmation. Casey does not want to speak.
Cool. Right on.
He was yelling at his TV.
And real quick, we can't just say Mike out in the open because
there's too many.
I don't know how many Mike.
Go by everyone's Twitter handle. That usually gets it sorted there.
Exactly.
But
all right, why don't we go with Wookiee to start then?
He's a loyal follower of the show. Wookiee.
You're going to have to give him the power to speak. I don't have that power because I'm not a host or co-host.
I got it. Done. Go, Wookiee.
I just got one thing to say.
And
as a Cincinnati Bengal fan,
Oh.
Notre Dame is welcome for Al Golden. You're welcome. We are welcome.
how far do we have to go back for the? We can thank Miami for Al Golden. I mean, we can go way back.
This
Temple.
is true.
Let's be real. If Al Golden is as successful as we project Marcus Freeman to be at Notre Dame, don't you think he'd still be at Miami? Like, so we got to think.
I don't know.
For Al Golden not lasting there to go through the NFL run he went through.
I got a question for Wookiee. Since you are a Bengals fan, sir.
Oh, Lord.
And you are a Notre Dame fan.
Yep.
What is your prognosis? Why do you think Al Golden made the jump from the Bengals to Notre Dame?
That's actually a good spotlight question.
I was thinking of this exact question earlier today, and I could not come with an answer, so I kind of want to hear it from the Bengals fan as well. Pressure.
I think he left because he wanted to go back to college sports and everything. I think that he saw what the Bengals were doing and then just said, okay, you guys are good. I'm going to go here and I'm going to fix this. And so I think that's actually what happened. Like, he did a number for us. Like, he just turned around our defense like no other. Now he's just going to come over here and help this. But the jump from NFL to college, I don't know why he didn't stay in the NFL. That puzzles me as well. But I think he just went where he felt was right.
And for for those who are new to the show, I do not watch and get too much into the NFL. You know, I'll let my brother talk more about the ins and outs and that sort of thing. But Fighting Irish Faithful is pretty much college football only. You know, I watch the Super Bowl and the playoffs, and you know, I'll catch a game here and there, but you know, very, very unlikely. What I will say is, when I was thinking about this, and I have a coworker who's also a Bengals fan, and the impression I get from him, and Wookie, correct me, is that he doesn't think the Bengals are going to have as good of a season next year as they did this year. And that is hard to do, to year after year, you know, continue to maintain with your staff, your players, and whatnot. So maybe there's a situation, if you want Joe's, you know, crystal ball thought, is he's like, okay, just as the Wookiee said, where can I have a strong impact? Where can I be impactful? Clearly, there's a defensive coordinator job at a very high-profile team that is on the up and up at Notre Dame. He clearly likes Notre Dame. If anyone listened to his initial presser when the entire coaching staff was announced at Notre Dame, you know, he kind of talks about that. He talks about the values of Notre Dame. So the impression I get is that, you know, he can step into a different role, be effective on day one, be a molder of men per se, and that's not really what you're doing in the NFL.
Exactly. He's going to be very, very productive for a college level. Like, he's already done the NFL. He's done that. Make an impact where it counts. It's in college, and we got him, so we're good.
Yeah, and another thing, when looking at Al Golden's record as a head coach, you know, he had some decent winning seasons when he was at Temple. He inherited a Miami program that, you know, was under investigation from the NCAA. I mean, it's Miami. It's kind of trash already, you know, so I don't have a strong opinion. His Al Golden's first coaching job was actually against Notre Dame. His first coaching job at Miami, I believe, was the Sun Bowl, where Notre Dame beat Miami in the Sun Bowl. So that's a struggle. And I kind of wonder if he hasn't really tasted real success in college, and he's using Notre Dame as the opportunity to do that.
That's exactly what I think it is. He sees an opportunity here with Marcus Freeman. Now that you know who is gone, he sees a light, and the next couple 5-10 years are going to be exciting for the Irish.
I hope it's longer than 10 years, because it's only 36.
We will make it exciting on this show. So
no, I'm not looking too far down the road. I'm just bringing it in.
I think just part of it is from the press, what he said. I think it was also how he constantly was referencing to kind of previous experience and previous knowledge of other people. So, like he was talking about Jack, he was talking about Ron Paulus, and you know, some of these other guys that apparently are behind the scenes. Well, Jack's not, but just having that previous experience. But he even himself in the press conference referenced the coaching search, you know, prior to Marcus Freeman being hired. It almost kind of begged the question is, did Jack contact Al Golden for the head coach role before Marcus Freeman was seriously considered? And that was something that popped up into my mind.
I thought that too.
He kept referencing stuff like that. I think just the familiarity of Notre Dame, the fact that he is Catholic, he went to a Catholic high school himself, Red Bank in New Jersey, Catholic high school. like I'm looking way back at this guy is hardcore football. He was pre-law at Penn State. So I mean, he definitely has this culture of football that's around him. And I think when he got up and he was saying, he referenced, oh, I can go work for that guy, referencing a conversation he had with his wife. I think he wants to very much be there to support something bigger than himself. And it's more than just football. I think, the way it kind of feeds into the Notre Dame tradition of it's a 40-year decision, not 4-year decision. I think that absolutely rang a bell with him. And now you have a young head coach who has the same ethics, morals, work ethic, and kind of paradigm of thought. I think Al Golden is looking at it from a kind of, I fit this mold better because that's how I naturally am, so I don't have to change. And there clearly was something in the NFL that was disjointed and not as smooth of a fit, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about that. With he in his presser, he talks a lot about the values. He doesn't really talk about, kind of the X's and the O's. And something I appreciate about Al Golden is he does have that experience. He can kind of, and he's been a leader, so he knows what Marcus is going through right now. And he also knows like where he should speak up and where he shouldn't, so to speak. And I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch those two men and their interaction. On one side, when you listen to Coach Freeman, he's really talking about enabling his coaching staff, really handing them the keys to the car. You, Chauncey Stuckey, you are the wide receivers coach. You are responsible. You are the lead recruiter for getting the best wide receivers in the country to come to Notre Dame, right? Like he's putting the ownership on them. And so the same thing with the defense. Coach Freeman said, Coach Golden, you are going to be, it's going to be your system. Now, before we just go in there and just throw something out, clearly you're evaluating the current team and what they do. And so I greatly, greatly appreciate that Al Golden, Coach Freeman, they're going to be synthesizing the current talent, current experience, current abilities of our defense. When you lose someone like Kyle Hamilton, right? What is in the toolbox? How sharp are the tools, etc.? And can we then build a system based off of the blue chips we have at our poker table, right? Now, on the flip side, what's interesting, and this is a question I want to ask 5 Foot Nothin Pod, is Coach Freeman giving too much power to his assistants? Is he delegating too much when he speaks of this nature? Or is he just feeling it out because he's a new coach and he's like, well, this guy's experienced, go for it?
That's funny you say that because I felt a lot of that watching the presser with all the coaches. I felt like it was a lot of delegating, and not that he needs to look at Brian Kelly or even reference him whatsoever, but it's almost like he's like, I'm going to do everything Brian Kelly didn't do. Like, like Brian Kelly was a very overbearing and did it his way, but he's also a lot older. So
I'm going the complete other direction.
Yeah. Like, but at the same time, there's a reason. It's not that it's has anything to do with Brian Kelly. It's the fact that one of them is 60, the other is 36.
Right.
It's a different way of looking at it. And he how many times has he mentioned recruiting? How many times have you seen a comment? Apparently, he made a comment. L. Washington was talking to somebody, the new D-line coach. And as he was talking, Freeman had walked past and goes, hey, hurry that up so you can get to recruiting, or something along those lines. And, obviously he was joking, but he really wasn't, because he does care about recruiting. And I feel like the delegation isn't the way maybe you're presenting the question. I feel like he wants his guys to be responsible for their position group, because at the base of all of it, the foundation of all of it is recruiting, and he can't recruit everybody as much as he wants to, and probably is going to be involved. He flat out can't. It's just not humanly possible, and he's already doing more than Brian Kelly ever did as a recruiter. But he's putting that job on them because he needs the recruits to be in Notre Dame in their mind all the time, 24/7. He can't do it, so he needs his guys to do it. So by giving them more responsibility, I think the baseline is recruiting, and with that it comes along like, well, you do your thing with your group. That way, if it goes south, I can just go, hey, well, you didn't do your part. I don't think that's what he's doing. I think that's where your question.
No, and I don't, and I'm not trying to lead the question like he's completely hands off and expecting these different pieces of the organization to kind of fit in some big puzzle on game day. I don't think that. It's just kind of the way he talks about it. And Grant, he's a first year head coach, so he probably hasn't. He just doesn't have the experience of, okay, I like this system versus this system, and especially on the offensive side, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon. But, we don't know what Marcus Freeman's system is, because it kind of sounded like with 1 year under Kelly and, evaluating the players, he implemented his system, but how much of that was left over from Clark Lee?
Well, and another thing that I look at is, this is now coming into spring ball, and your best weapons are going to be the relationship that your players have with their position coaches. So by empowering them, and that's basically how I see it, is he's empowering them to get going, hit the ground running basically, and kind of the mindset of 2 heads are better than 1, 5 heads are better than 2. I think he's empowering everyone for their position and their assigned players to really build the rapport with them going into spring ball. I think leaving spring, I think we're going to start to see Marcus Freeman start to wheel it back and make the decisions of, okay, I like this style offense with these kinds of wrinkles. I like this kind of defensive front for a base, and start directing people. I think right now it's, let's hit the ground running. Let's get the initial boots on the ground with coaches and players in their positions and build that rapport now.
Right. I mean, we're doing all this macro talk right now, but let's face it. I mean, this staff was just assembled like 3 days ago in its current format, right? And I don't even know how much time the NCAA actually allows these guys to interact with the players at this point. I mean, clearly Coach Bayless and the strength program, that's in full swing, and this is probably one of the most essential times of their their conditioning and weight training, and him just basically beating them with tires and Yeti coolers and whatever they're doing in the parking lot. But quite frankly, we are on the outside looking in, and so we have all these like big picture questions, because that's what we do as Notre Dame fans. But Wookie, other than us, everyone writing you a thank you card for giving us Al Golden as our new defensive coordinator, what do you think is going to be a challenge for Al Golden as the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame?
I think it's going to be the young talent, because let's face it, guys, we're in a whole nother level of talent. They're faster, they're stronger, they're hungrier, and he's going to have to learn how to contain that. That's going to be his biggest thing, is containing their hypeness, their level of hypeness. He's just got to bring it all together. That's going to be his downfall, I think.
Yeah, and one thing, the only thing that gives me concerns is I'm having flashbacks to Weiss. Now, I don't want to do an unfair comparison here, but there's a very legit, and this happened also with Brian Van Gorder. when Brian Van Gorder came in, everyone was really geeked, and I myself was really geeked about Van Gorder coming in. And it's like, oh, he's going to have this really aggressive system. He was in the NFL. He was even a Broyles Award winner, right? People forget that, in the SEC. But bottom line is, both Brian Van Gorder and Charlie Weis, they had these great visions of what they wanted to do, but the execution and the implementation of that was not possible. And I think it's also not necessarily because they're shitty coaches. I think it's mainly a time issue. It's a math problem issue. There's not enough opportunity, practice time, etc. You're still having to develop these guys and refine their fundamentals out of high school. You know, these guys are amazing athletes. Maybe their technique and fundamentals wasn't that great because they just had, you know, God had blessed them with the ability to just run faster than everybody, right? And that is a reality that, you know, these guys who don't transition well into the college game experience because they have to go back to fundamentals and they can't just be unleashed onto the world like Dexter Williams when he came out of, you know, I think it was in 2018, he comes out off of a 4-game suspension, and his first touch, he scores a touchdown, right? That doesn't happen to too many players. So my concern with Al Golden, not that it's going to happen, I know it, I don't want it to happen, but I'll be looking for it, is he going to bring too much of a high expectation? And it's like, look, at the end of the day, you have to teach these guys how to tackle. And,
yeah, they don't have the NFL refinement yet.
They do not. Right. The guys who go to the NFL, they're fundamentally sound. It's all about adjusting, scheming, and you know, the coaching and the players and people just coming together. And ultimately, you know, you have to have good plays and good calls and good fundamentals, obviously, to win the Super Bowl and shit like that. But for college, there's a whole different ball game. And Al Golden, if I had to say one thing to you, teach our guys how to tackle, number one, but number two, do not overcomplex things.
Exactly. And I will say this, though. Al Golden, if you remember, I'm going back to the Bengals now. If you remember our defense 2 years ago, then to our defense this year with Al Golden,
completely different.
Changed 180. So nothing matters to that guy. It's not going to matter. He's going to see what you can do, and then he's going to build on it, progress, and make you better for it. I guarantee it.
Well, I think, you know, using the Van Gorder and Weiss, you know, one of the,
I mean, those are really extreme worst case scenarios, right?
Yeah.
You know? Get it. But using those examples, you know, I think one thing that you're maybe, I say missing, but like Al Golden
Call me out. Challenge me. Come on. Say,
Al
Joe,
Golden,
you're a dumbass. What you just said.
Al Golden has head coaching experience in college. Weiss came in from the NFL, was used to talent, was used to, like, these are the best of the best. So the, you know, educating part of it wasn't as imperative because they already got that. And, you know, Van Gorder, you know, similar. He spent a lot of time in the NFL before he showed up at Notre Dame. I think Golden has that college background that is going to eliminate some of those concerns that you were kind of alluding to, like, okay, these aren't NFL guys. Like, he's not going to think like that, which I think Weiss did more than Van Gorder, but I think they did. The other part of it is, look at those recruiting classes when Van Gorder and Weiss were at Notre Dame to what we're about to have on our roster.
True that.
That is a big part of it. It's closer as a whole. It's closer to having NFL guys than I feel like when Weiss was there. We had the select few guys that, you know, made it, Golden, Tate, and Floyd, and so on and so forth. But as a whole, from top to bottom, you had, I think, less NFL guys when Weiss was there and Van Gorder versus now. So two things are working in Golden's favor. he's very familiar with college kids and how they operate, having been a head coach in 2 different
That's
places.
probably the best talent he's ever coached in college, you're saying.
Exactly. So, and with the NFL experience, the adjustment isn't as drastic as it might have been for Weiss and Van Gorder, I guess is my point.
Nice.
The other thing that I got out of the press conference was there is no ego. Every single one of those coaches, from Marcus Freeman to the coordinators, everybody has their ego checked because it's about Notre Dame being its best, not as the head coach. Like Brian Kelly used to be. Like, there was very much an ego of Brian Kelly as Notre Dame's head coach.
Well,
he is Notre Dame first. Marcus Freeman's leading the ship, steering it. But he's got his lieutenant, his right tenant, his midshipman. He's got all of his guys. But it is about the ship that is Notre Dame football. And that's first and foremost. And I got that loud and clear from every single person who spoke at that press conference.
Yeah. And, with Golden, to go back to your original, like, why did Golden leave the NFL for Notre Dame? Okay. And I'm going to end with a question for Wookie here in a second. But why did he leave the NFL for Notre Dame? He's been in the NFL, I think, was 6-7 years. I think they were saying 6, right?
Yeah, he's been there a while. He was with the Lions before that, right?
Yeah, he had a history with the Lions. But not that I'm not trying to diminish being a linebackers coach in the NFL. On the defensive side of the ball, outside of being the defensive coordinator, linebacker is probably one of the most important positions because they do so much. So it's very integral part of running your defense. However, he was not a defensive coordinator. He'd been there 6 years. He probably saw Notre Dame defensive coordinator as a better opportunity than a position coach in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a step up for his career is kind of where you're going.
Exactly. But my question for Wookie, and I'll pose it to everybody, everybody throwing their 2 cents. If the Bengals win the Super Bowl, does Al Golden leave?
Wow. I don't know the answer to that. Well, I will say this. If, he has street cred by not only being a head coach at a program like Miami, right? Miami with their, hot fast cars and Miami Vice shit, versus Notre Dame now. Now he can kind of, compare and contrast to that. If he had a Super Bowl ring on his hand and he's going to talk to some recruit and say, hey, you should come to Notre Dame. I mean, that was like the Charlie Weiss effect. He had 3 Super Bowl rings or whatever the hell he had, and he goes and picks up Jimmy Clausen and some of these other great recruits, and even Dan Christ, who was a highly rated recruit, Golden Tate, what have you. He goes and gets these players who, it's like, hey, did pretty well at the Patriots, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think that's a very valid question. I don't know if he leaves. I'm not Al Golden. But I agree with you guys that taking a defensive coordinator job at the University of Notre Dame, to me, feels like a step up from just the linebacker coach.
I agree.
No, definitely. Why don't we kick it over to Coach Parseghi and see what he thinks of that question?
All right. So, Coach Parseghian, you've been invited to speak, sir. Thank you so much. See if he's there. He might be getting a midnight snack again.
Oh, there we go.
There you are, Coach.
He is having another midnight snack.
Yeah,
I am actually.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, was it?
Is it Cinnamon Toast Crunchy? Is that the same bag? Jeez.
No, this is popcorn tonight.
Man, he's always eating. He's like the Brad Pitt of this podcast. He makes valuable contributions, but he's always eating.
Wait, do you got the munchies?
Oh gosh, Wookie.
No, never have I ever touched.
Wait, hey, I do it for medical reasons.
You got glaucoma. The doc would suggest other treatment for glaucoma. Coach, let's talk about Al Golden. Steer the conversation. Yeah, welcome back. Coach, you by far have the you right now have the gold medal for most contributions to the live shows. So, congratulations. Other than myself, now unless Five Foot Nothing Pod starts doing live shows, you'll surpass me. But
challenge accepted.
Yeah, there you go. If it's a basketball show, you're going to be pulling up Mike, though. I'm going to just come in and talk, smack about, why Gonzaga is great. But for those of you who don't know, I went to Gonzaga, and they're also number 1 in the country right now. So,
all right, Coach, what did you think of that? What did you think of the Al Golden pickup as defensive coordinator?
Well, first off, I'll just say this: I love Duke. So.
They have won multiple titles. Gonzaga has not.
And the Lakers and the Cowboys and the Yankees.
I like the Lakers.
I don't know. It's like,
well, I don't really follow the NBA that closely, but Duke basketball, Notre Dame football, Yankees baseball, Raiders in the NFL. So.
Oh my gosh.
The Raiders.
I said Yankees.
Well, absolutely Yankees, but definitely Raiders in football. It was, as a child, it was the first team I saw play on TV, so that's how they stuck with me. But
well, these were the Madden Raiders, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah. But as far as Al Golden, from what I've heard, he wasn't really that great of a culture fit in Miami, which makes him a perfect fit for Notre Dame.
Yeah, he's
for one.
Like complete opposite, right?
Oh yeah,
convicts.
Oh yeah, but
he would have been like a missionary down there at that point.
Oh yeah, but it's just, I mean, taking his last name aside, which, as with Golden Tate, who was mentioned earlier, perfect fit. I mean, it's from the defensive coordinators we've had, with the exception of Marcus Freeman. I mean, good grief, it can't hurt. So I like it. It's different. It's somebody that has head coaching experience that Marcus Freeman can lean on for advice. So I love the decision. I have no issues with it.
Here's something I just thought of as you're talking about Al Golden and his previous head coaching experience. I'm kind of thinking about, how Coach Freeman is empowering him, how Coach Freeman is bringing on this other coach that's kind of, I don't want to say is like a wise old man. That's not what I'm saying, but he's been there, done that. He has many lessons learned, right? He has like a decade of experience being a head coach and now in the NFL, right? Coming back to the college game to be his coordinator. And in a lot of manners, he has the ability to essentially give Coach Freeman the advice. One thing that's unique about this is Coach Freeman is literally has kind of, and I think, Red Snapper, you've talked about this, how he has kind of this servant leadership persona to him that Coach Freeman has, which is the complete opposite of what Kelly had. Kelly would never have hired Al Golden. Let's put it this way. Kelly is such an egotistical, controlling dick, and he has to be the head honcho or what have you. And I think his ego is what got in the way of him being successful at Notre Dame, among a few other things. But Freeman is willing to hire someone who has, in some ways, has more experience, and in certain regards has some different qualifications that may exceed his own. Kelly would never have done that because I think Kelly has too much pride.
Oh, I agree 100%. It's just one of those things where it's just hard to explain. it just goes back to the ego. It's like Kelly doesn't want to hire somebody that, I guess because of his ego, he feels would outshine him. If that makes sense.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
So one thing I'm looking at right now, because I'm going through Al Golden and his head coaching experience at Temple, he went 1-11, 4-8, 5-7, turned it around to 9-4, 8-4. So he ended up finishing with a winning record his last 2 years, and then he went to Miami. And Miami, first 2 years, they were ineligible.
Yeah.
So they
correct.
couldn't play a bowl game. They couldn't win a title in their conference for the ACC. So you see those 2 years as down years, as 6-6, 7-5, and it's probably because the recruiting took a hit. So you see an upturn of 9-4, 6-7, 4-3, and it's probably just because he finally had seniors that stuck. He got some new talent in. People transferred out because whatever reason. So what I'm getting at is he has adversity, and kind of going back to what Foot Nothin was saying, is that this is probably the most raw talent at the college level that he's ever coached. And I think having that almost, like you were just saying, Fighting Irish, that it absolutely speaks to his teacher mentality of let's raise you up, let's teach you the right way to do things.
Eric Parsegian's at a party right now. It sounds like. I was expecting to hear his microwave turn on and hear his bag of popcorn start popping there in a second.
I've already had it pop, man.
Oh, okay. I was hoping you'd go for round 2. That'd just be really funny to hear your microwave go boom.
Give it time.
Yeah,
Give it
right.
time.
Exactly. Well, we keep talking long enough, you know. Yeah, no, good stuff. Well, you know,
let's bounce it around. Let's see what everybody else thinks about Al Golden. So let's go to Greg, if he's willing to speak.
yeah, you guys got. I can only see 4 people: myself, Red Snapper, Wookie, and Coach Parsegian. Twitter's wigging out here.
Craig or Jason, if you guys want to speak, send the request up.
Red Snapper, I just made you a co-host, so there you go. Now you have the power to mute Coach Parsegian and his bag crinkling or whatever the hell he's doing.
All right, cool.
It sounds like technical difficulties are
I don't think Coach Parsegian has ever been on a Zoom call for work during COVID or something. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting here, you know.
All right, Jason, unmute yourself.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
How you doing?
Jason, welcome back.
Hey, thank you. Doing a little beer tonight instead of the scotch, but
Oh, that's
we're
okay.
good.
I am going IPAs.
I got the beer in room.
There you go.
I am very proud
So
to
with
say
Golden,
that
I don't think he got a fair shot in Miami, period. I think they brought him in to be that scapegoat while they were under investigation and get rid of him as soon as they needed to.
they needed a
once
clean
they thought
guy.
They were clean and
They
free
needed
because
someone
he's
clean
more
as
the
a
nice guy
whistle.
style. Whoop, you there?
Oh yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead. I'm just talking over you and being rude.
So it really was more of I think more of a scapegoat type guy when he was down there because he's more of the nice guy style. Temple, he was solid. Virginia, when he was a defensive coordinator down there, they were good. So I think it's a great hire. I'm not mad at all, and I don't think he would have stayed in Cincinnati as a linebackers coach if they won the Super Bowl. I really don't. I think he was ready to move on. He's a college coach. He was there to make a paycheck. He got fired by the Lions. I know it was coaching changes and he got let go, but I don't think he was a fit for professional football at all.
Do you think that's more of a culture thing, or do you think it's just kind of his MO of
his MO? I think he's a, like you said, or I think it was you that said about being a teacher and being more of a coach, not a professional babysitter. He wants to teach and get those young men going, and also he was the recruiter coordinator for not Petrino in Penn State.
Paterno?
Back in the day, Paterno. There we go. He was the recruiting coordinator for him, and just by everything else that you see, Freeman's going after everybody that recruits. That's it, and I think that's where this hire came from. 100% was recruiting.
I mean, clearly, if we had to sum up one of the pillars that holds up the banner of Marcus Freeman, it's recruiting. He I think identifies that to win and to beat the best, you have to get the best, because your opponent is trying to do the same thing. And so, like, before, I think recruiting was, and I first and foremost, I firmly believe that the best thing that helps recruiting is winning, right? So if you keep winning games, you hold up trophies, right? That's the best thing that holds up recruiting. Other than that, you need to have a good culture, a good program, and a good staff that's committed to that, to bring these talented athletes to your university. The concern I have is with Coach Freeman is it possible for him to be putting too much emphasis on recruiting, or is his emphasis right now the appropriate time? Because let's face it, it's February.
Well, dude, I don't mean to jump in here, but
you're the co-host. You're supposed to be jumping in.
What's easier? Like, this is a ridiculous rhetorical question. What's easier? Working hard in recruiting and getting a bunch of 4 and 5 stars and coaching them up, or being very laissez-faire about it, getting a bunch of 3 stars and coaching them up? I'd rather coach up the 4 and 5 stars than the 3 stars and work a little bit harder on the front end than the back end. Like, is that not, like, it doesn't make any sense.
No, you're true. So my rebuttal to that is, so he has some 4 and 5 stars already. Yeah. And after this recruiting cycle, and certainly the next one, 2023, everyone's looking at that and circling it, with highlighter, go, oh, look at this class, it may be number 1. I think right now it is number 1.
We are number 1, right?
But the point I'm making is at what point does he have to turn down the recruiting vibe and actually coach his current players that he actually has? And granted, he's only been there 2 months, so I'm not gonna say he's doing a bad job and he doesn't know how to balance that juggling act. But look, if you're a player right now, and again, I emphasized this earlier in the show, I have no idea what the NCAA actually allows from player and coach interaction and some of these other things. Players have to go to class and things of that nature, right? I don't know. Like, it's just something I hear a lot that comes out of Coach Freeman, and I agree. It's so much better, to answer your rhetorical question, to have 4 and 5 stars in your team that you coach up. But at some point, you need to put that aside and address, the scheme, and we're going to be playing Ohio State, and they're 4 and 5 stars.
Well, okay, you're right, but keeping Tommy Rees, of course, keeping Tommy Rees, because obviously it's been talked about, and Freeman has said as much. He's not exactly an offensive mind, so keeping Tommy Rees in house, who's been there, was key to keeping the offense very succinct. Bringing in a guy like Al Golden defensively was huge. And you could, talk about Golden and how's it going to go. Freeman struggled for 3 games. Let's be real. Call it what it is. He was trying to figure out his guys. And how long was he in our on our side. He was, I guess, and actually I think about it now, it's maybe a month longer than Golden will be. But point being, he figured it out. But he can calm down when, like, I look at Alabama. Alabama recruits itself now.
Yep.
And that's when he can slow down. But I think he's doing it right by bringing in guys that, like Tommy Reese, he's got the offense. Al Golden, with his experience and everything else, he's coming in. He can hit the recruiting hard because he has two guys from the offensive and defensive coordinator position, those two specifically, that he can entrust that, hey, they're not going to fuck it up. Like, I think we can hit recruiting hard because these two guys are solid. And I do expect them to be here for a few more years. And I'm really talking about Reese. I think Golden, if this goes well, I think he's here for a while. But, that's another topic for another day. But he can slow down when we start recruiting ourselves. And I don't know when that's going to be. But that's the goal. I hate Bama and their fake claim championships and all that stuff. But that's
Coach Barcigi, I'm sure, is very passionate about that, as he is.
1973. They can go hard.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, we brought Jason on here to discuss this. What do you think of this? Or am I full of shit? Is 5 Foot Nothin pod, full of garbage? Or do you have a different viewpoint on this whole thing with the recruiting aspect?
I would worry more on the Weiss effect, where the biggest complaint about Weiss was he couldn't coach up those younger guys. He really did just say 4-star, 5-star comes in, you're going to play, and nobody got better. And I was worried about that. When you were talking, I was thinking about that, saying, well, crap, it's the Weiss effect. But he hired some of the top position coaches that Weiss wasn't doing. Weiss just took a hold of who he got and kept them. He didn't search for better coaching and stuff like that. So,
and I'm also gonna reference Wookie's reference, to the last 2 years in Cincinnati and watching those defensive linebackers just absolutely drastically improve 180. So
exactly.
That makes me feel the best. That's a warm blanket I'm going to wrap myself in the off season here.
No,
yeah, and he's definitely, he coaches them up, but is everybody else going to? And I think him going out getting all these young guys and guys that can really kind of be on the same level as these younger guys, knowing, hey, I was there not too long ago, and this is what we did, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is what we're doing. I mean, it does, and Stan, I think, is the biggest one coming back for the offensive line. Go ahead.
No, go, Jason.
I think that's the biggest. I know they made a big deal as soon as he came in, but I think that's the biggest one right there. Although we did miss out on Montgomery going to Ohio State, he can coach those guys up of who's there, and we've got a lot of talent there.
And talk about the words I exactly used was recruit itself. The offensive line at Notre Dame, I know we miss out on a couple here and there. I get it. Zach Rice, now Montgomery, whatever. But all in all, Notre Dame's offensive line and its history recruits itself. It's the coaching that makes the difference, and Stan provides that. And with the young guys, you look at Chansey Stuckey and I'm forgetting the dude, the tight ends guy, Gerard Parker. They have, I have to assume, I think we can all agree, they have bigger aspirations than being a wide receivers and tight end coach at Notre Dame. As nice as that is right now, they have bigger aspirations. The only way to get to that next level is to be a good coach. Being a good recruiter is nice, and it's great, and we need it, but they have to be a good coach to get to where they probably want to go in their career as young as they are. and we're going to be the beneficiary of them wanting to be a good coach.
All right, let's bring Craig in, who wanted to speak. Go for it, Craig. Don't forget to unmute yourself as you come in on the bottom left. All right.
Communication coordinator, Red Snap.
Greg?
Hey guys, how's it going? Great
There you
show.
go.
What's up?
Awesome.
Welcome
Hey.
to the Fighting 5-Foot Irish Nothing Faithful Show.
Say that
Very
one
nice.
5 times
I
fast.
cannot.
Two more beers and I'm gonna have it down.
I'm gonna
All right,
quit.
Greg.
All right, let me know when that happens.
Sorry it took me a while. There's a couple of things. Fast Times at Ridgemont High was on, so I was watching that and listening to you guys at the same time. Then I couldn't figure out how to get the microphone to work with Twitter, so I had to go into my iPhone settings. But anyway, I don't know if you guys talked about this already, but what I love about Marcus Freeman is he is surrounding himself with people that have had success. And I read, I think it was yesterday, that he's actually doing a lot of communicating with Lou Holtz. And what was cool is that
I
Lou
did
Holtz
hear about
told
that.
him. You did? Yeah. I think that's really cool because that was, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you guys, so I was here for the national championship. But Lou Holtz is he had told him that I'll give you advice, but I won't give you my opinion.
Yes.
And yeah,
I
just
still
thought
can't
that was-
figure that out. I'm kind of wrapping my brain around that. Like, what's the difference between advice and opinion? Like, this is literally Coach Holtz. All his old players would be like, oh, he had these like mind games and these like things that would kind of mess with them, but kind of in a good way. It was all done for a reason. And I swear to this day, Lou Holtz still does that.
And I love it. That's the beauty of Lou Holtz. Give me more. And so I'm real happy that Marcus Freeman is connected with him, and Lou Holtz is contributing in an indirect way. So I didn't know if you guys talked about that already or not, but I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah,
No, that's great.
If you're modeling anything after Lou Holtz, I mean, I encourage anyone who's listening. He's got great motivational. I'm going to say an old word, tapes, or CDs. Which, if you have a car now, a brand new car, they don't come with CD players anymore. So, but Lou Holtz does have motivational tapes and CDs, and oh my God, they're amazing. But my favorite Lou Holtz story, and I hope we all know this one. You know why Pat Terrell had a career in the NFL and at Notre Dame?
I know exactly where you're going with this.
The dude came into Notre Dame as a receiver, and Lou Holtz and Pat Terrell admits this. Like, I didn't have the best hands. Like, Lou Holtz, dude couldn't catch. He moved into defensive back, and it's little things like that you don't even notice as you're watching the game. That you like Xavier Watts. That dude might have a career post Notre Dame because of dumb luck. I don't know how else to explain it, because if we don't have the linebacker and safety issues, he doesn't ever go to the defensive side of the football. And he may have never played, especially with the incoming talent at receiver, but it's little things like that Lou Holtz, I'm using Notre Dame specifically in a vacuum, he recognized and noticed, like, you know what? You got so much talent, but not there. We need to put you here. And
yeah. Where else can you serve this football team? Where else can you have the greatest impact to make our team successful? Lou Holtz did not look at the whatever 24/7 Sports said, oh, this guy's a receiver, so clearly we have to put him, with Chancey Stuckey. No. It's my hope that Al Golden, Marcus Freeman, as these guys are, especially on the defensive side, are evaluating the defense, and all the coaches, Reese, doesn't matter who it is, Parker, Al Washington, it doesn't matter to me. Any of these guys, that they look at the players and they have an open mind and are aware of their filters and say, yes, you've been playing running back, but maybe you would actually be better as in this position or in this area, right?
I have a huge feeling that that's where Brian Mason, the special teams coordinator, is going to come in, because he's going to be looking for overall athletic abilities to put people in situations. And yeah, there's the control, the field position game in special teams. But if you got a bunch of guys that love to hit, you're going to put them on your kickoff team. If you've got guys that have got great hands, you're going to put them on your hands team, So I think he's going to have the ability, because what it sounds like is everyone's going to be going through special teams drills, that I see a lot of that kind of overall, what's your aptitude on an athletic scale and where can we best use you? I see him as a major kind of wild factor in that.
Yeah, you cannot return punts if you don't have good people back there. I mean, when Coach Mason took the mic and took the podium to address questions from, people not on this show, but he starts talking about, moving players around and doing this, that, and the other, and almost like he didn't say convince the other players to go to be key contributors to the special teams. That's not exactly what he said, but in a roundabout way, I just wanted to just throw up a real, straightforward question that says, hey, can we just have a group of guys that can return punts? That's really all I'm looking for from you as a special coordinator. Like, okay, yes, make field goals too, but return punts. Like, who's the last person who did that? Golden Tate? Like, fuck,
Joey Getherall. That's how fucking long it's been. All right.
Yeah. I was at the UMass game where we did return a punt for a touchdown, but it's fucking UMass, right? Like,
I'm so glad Brett Snapper brought up Brian Mason, because that was something I wanted to talk about. But real quick, talking about discovering talent, I'm only gonna bring this up because I heard it just the other day, and this is wild to me. Okay, Terrell Suggs. We all know who Terrell Suggs is, right?
Oh, yeah.
He arrived at Arizona State as a running back.
Oh, wow.
That shit out. That's talk about discovering.
I can insert the sound of a cricket right here.
Could you talk about discovering talent and where you're best suited? My God. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to, because we were all talking about it. I was like, dude, Terrell Suggs. Like, I heard it last week. But okay, so Brian Mason, that dude said everything we've ever wanted, but recent history, the last, 12 years since Brian Kelly arrived on campus, about special teams. He said all the right words. Oh my God. Because, like, we were fair catch central. I could return punts at Notre Dame at 37 years old. Why? Because I had hands. I was a punt returner in Division III. I played receiver. The requirement was to catch the fucking football. I could do that. That was the requirement. It had zero to do with athletic ability, how fast your 40 time was, how quick you ran any sort of drill. It was just catch the ball. And he said, talking about aggression, talking about
not playing conservatively.
Exactly, not playing conservative. Opportunities, all the right key words, and that's it. It's like, yeah, okay, something could go wrong in the special teams. We get it. It can be a problem. I think Nebraska had a very big special teams problem, if I remember people on Twitter last year. But the fact of the matter is, if you never take a chance, there's never going to be what's the phrase? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Well, and he basically said that we're not going to live in fear of the mistake. We're going to be aggressive, and we're gonna play very, very, to the advantage. If we can make a big play, the one thing I was waiting for him to say is, when we make a big play on special teams, that lifts everybody up on the team.
Yep.
That's what I was waiting for.
Tyree. Whoa, Tyree.
It's not going to be Matt Salerno?
Yeah.
Hey, I got a quick question for you guys. So before Tyree, Why wasn't Braden Lindsay in there returning?
Dude,
I mean, and then
He's very fast. I don't know if he has the so late Lindsay is a track guy, right? So
he's the fastest guy in the stadium.
He is
but
the
they
fastest
never
guy in the stadium,
utilize him
but
on
he doesn't necessarily have to. You have to be able to cut, right? You have to have the vision to see where the guys are going to be, and you have
And
to
the
be able to
shiftiness.
cut.
Yeah, you need that shiftiness.
And I
Straight
don't.
line runner and hamstring issue. Straight line runner and a hamstring issues all the time.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
when he wasn't hurt, it just frustrated me that he wasn't in on special teams. But even when he was on offense, I mean, he would drop passes and miss routes, and it was so frustrating. I couldn't figure it out.
I agree. I want more out of Lindsay. He I think can do so much more to contribute, and I don't know if he needs to hit the ice bath more, do more yoga in the off season. Who knows? But there are some certain things that, like, let me back up. Two of my favorite running backs at Notre Dame are Ricky Waters and Dexter Williams. They are they were not the fastest guys on the team at the time.
Those are my two favorite. I love it.
Both of those guys had jiggy joystick moves, and it's like, something amazing is going to happen. And I see that in the 3 running backs that are in our backfield next season. All 3 of them bring something special. Tyree is fast as hell. Diggs does Dukes of Hazzard slides or whatever the fuck he does. And then Estime is the next Jerome Bettis. Like, these 3 men, if they're on the field at the same time, like, I may cry.
To me, it's like having Waters, Autry, Denson, who you skipped over. But it's like having Waters.
Well,
Denson.
Denson's great. He's just not my favorite.
But those 3, and it's Water, and they're all in the same kind of time frame. But I look at those 3. I feel like Diggs is Waters, Tyree is Denson, and then Estime is Bettis.
I love how we're talking about running the football now.
No, hold on. They're gonna catch swing passes. That's all they're gonna do. No, but no, I feel like
don't get me started.
Not with Harry Heastand as your offensive line coach.
I don't know, unless Reese is calling 23% fucking passing again. I'm just gonna get angry here. Let's go back to Craig. Craig was talking about positivity things, and then I kind of hijacked his talk.
With Lindsay, we're going back to Craig. Lindsay frustrates me because I was so excited when he came out of high school. He put on the 25 jersey, and I'm the Rocket's my dude. Like,
Rocket.
I'm like, oh, he's wearing 25. Oh, this is awesome. And then he switched to 0, but I was like, oh shit, all right, I'm on board with you, bro. You're trying to make your own name, your own fucking history. You're gonna be 0, and like, I'm waiting for it. Like, when's it gonna happen, dude?
Well, I think he knew he couldn't be Rocket, so that's why he switched.
Fair.
I remember when Greg Bryant, God rest his soul, he took number 1. I was like, that takes balls. And he had it. I just, it just didn't pan out for him at Notre Dame, obviously. But like, when he took number 1, I was like, yes.
What was he the last one to wear number 1?
I can't name a single other person.
Because that was post Lewis Nix. So I think so. And it's wild too, because you think about Notre Dame's history, there's been a lot of solid number 1s. Like, no joke. Todd Light, Derek Mays, Deke Cooper. We've had some solid dudes wearing number 1. And all of a sudden it just disappeared off. Like, nobody wears number 1 anymore. After Rick Bryant.
I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago. Brian Kelly, for whatever reason, because I remember Mike Golick talking about it, he changed number 1 to be like,
you have to earn it.
Yeah, it was like a special treat. It was
So it's like number 10 on a soccer team.
Yeah, it was like a rotating treat for whoever performed the best in practice or the previous game. Some stupid garbage crap like that.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that too.
Yeah. But
that sounds like unnecessary complexity.
Yeah, it's like the 12th man at A&M. Like, not the 12 man a little bit different than if you were the best player on Notre Dame's football team, but like it's a special number. Like
Who's number 12 for Notre Dame?
TB12, buddy.
Excellent.
Rick-
Excellent.
No,
I'm so happy you got that right.
That's
no,
the next.
Ricky Waters. Ricky Waters. That's
Well, he was number 12, but current roster.
I'm sorry, I can't get off Ricky
TB12.
Waters or Dexter Williams.
TB12 has a history dating back to the 70s. Do you know who I'm talking about? Anybody?
Number
You're gonna
12
tell
from
us, so
the
you know.
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw, TB12. Then it
Oh
transitioned.
wow, I was thinking Notre Dame though.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah,
Missed my
what
fault.
podcast are you talking about, man? We're talking about Notre Dame football.
Hold on. I thought the spaces takes your thoughts and throws them into the space. No, but TB12 with Terry Bradshaw, Tom Brady, TB12. Now Tyler Buckner is the new TB12, and it's just gonna go.
I'm going to add in the last two people that are sitting just listening. So I've got Adam Dowling at Adam Dowling1. I'm going to send invite to speak, as well as Justin Roush, JR Roush 11. I'm going to let you guys invite you to speak. That way you guys aren't on the outside looking in. You can chime in if you want. If you guys want to contribute, go ahead and accept on the bottom left there, and then unmute yourselves.
It's 10:30 on a Friday or 11:30 for some of us. So if you've had some drinks, chime in, say what you want.
Are you two beers in? Can you name the show now? The Fighting 5-Foot Irish Nothing Faithful Show.
The Fighting 5-Foot Irish Nothing Yeah.
Nice.
I like the way you said that. It's every other. Yeah.
All right, Adam, welcome to the show, Adam.
Welcome.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Oh,
What's up, Adam?
we're having a good time here. Welcome to the
Like
show.
So, man, I guess I kind of want to jump back on the recruiting aspect you guys were talking about earlier.
By all means, go for it.
I think my opinion is that I think the recruiting is everything. And I know you guys were talking about you want to get them more into like the scheme and the coaching, but we've kind of done that the last 5 years, right? 10-2, where's that really got us? As Notre Dame fans, where do we want to be? 10-2, okay? I think kind of you got to get in that top 5 recruiting every year to really have a chance to get the national championships.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and that's something I'm going to do in the off season. And anyone who's new, my show, the Fighting Irish Faithful show, we talk a lot about scotch and spreadsheets, which we can talk about scotch, if people want. But on the spreadsheet side of thing, I put a lot of numbers out there, and one thing I wanted to start looking at is the average recruiting for the 4 years previous of the national champions. So like Georgia, for example, I am 100% agreeing with you. They're definitely top 5, probably the last 4 years, right? Alabama, same sort of thing. But LSU, when they won in 2019, they probably weren't. And so on and so forth. And then compare that to Notre Dame, right?
The only outlier, I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, it's okay. I was done.
The LSU, I don't know how they quantify LSU's roster, only because Joe Burrow was a decent recruiter.
Amazing.
But I don't know how they quantify it. The outlier in all the last since the CFP started, the outlier every time you look at the national championship is Clemson. Their recruiting classes are in the
I mean, Clemson won the title, in 2018 because they were the number 1 scoring defense. They were the number 4 scoring offense, right? They were the number 2 team in throwing touchdowns.
Well, that's
number 1 in rushing touchdowns, right?
Right, but we're talking specifics to recruiting here. So
the difference that Clemson had over Alabama and now Georgia and LSU, and so they had Trevor Lawrence one time and Deshaun Watson the other time. The rest of the roster was
So what you're saying
comparable
is we
to
just need a good quarterback.
Yes. Notre Dame and Clemson are eerily similar. Eerily similar. It's creepy where they are. When you look at the recruiting, they landed a Deshaun Watson and a Trevor Lawrence. If Tyler Buchner is anything like that, our roster is good enough to win a national championship.
And I would say 100% you guys are right that you can be top 13 if you get a generational quarterback. Clemson had a generational quarterback for 6 years straight.
Yep.
And if you get that, think about last year's team if you had Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback.
Go back to 2018. I was in the AT&T Stadium watching that shit happen. If the quarterback switched teams, we win the game. Like, if
Yeah,
Trevor
I
Lawrence
agree.
Or Julian Love doesn't get hurt.
If you have a generational if you don't have a generational quarterback, I would think you need top 5 recruiting classes like Georgia's done. If not, if you can get a quarterback, you can be, 10, 12. But, I mean, we've done this where we've been close and we haven't had top 5 recruiting classes. What have we been like 13, 12, 10? So that's what it gets you is close. So until you get top 5, I don't think, do we want to win national championships or do we want to be 10-2? That's my thing.
Natty.
Yeah, the glass ceiling that is the college football playoff. And that's it. You have to. Marcus Freeman did his homework and looked at what has been the barrier for Notre Dame to go undefeated multiple regular seasons and still accomplish quote unquote nothing. Like
Brian Kelly.
What is
Get rid of Brian Kelly. Step 1.
Right, and we did. So all right, he voluntarily left. But it's been the talent at certain positions, which all funnels back to however you want to phrase it. Look at it. It comes back to recruiting, and it's just when T. Higgins and Justin Ross are making our secondary look stupid, and then we go against Alabama's fucking trio of first round fucking receivers. We don't have that. I don't care how much you coach up your 3-star defensive backs. You don't have that. We need to get those guys that their talent alone can compete. How do we get above it? Coaching them up.
Is this a new thing, though, in college football, right? Like, I mean, if you have really good players, like Notre Dame, when they won their last championship in '88, they didn't have the number 1, recruiting class or, who knows, how you would find this information nowadays. But, I mean, yes, they did have Tony Rice and they had a few other really key players. Don't get me wrong. But it took Holtz 3 years to get there to undo whatever Jerry Faust did. But at the same time, when they won, they probably weren't the best recruiting team. And then actually after Notre Dame won, then I think they were like number 2 in recruiting, and their recruiting actually got better. And that's how they got Rick Meyer and things of that nature. But let's face it, just because they had better recruiting after '88, ultimately didn't result in a championship.
But that's also
93 still happened. Sorry.
But that's also
92. We lost to Stanford, right?
Yeah.
But that's where I think the game and its evolution, like you were just talking about the last show.
Are you saying there's more emphasis in today's college football? Because, I mean, let's face it, these players they've been going to like custom camps. IMG Academy exists, right? You
need higher.
There's so much more
quality athletes because the game is built to be faster. It promotes the pass. We're seeing that through statistics,
which I don't like.
The shift in the passing touchdowns. So I see, because the game has evolved, because athleticism has shifted. When you have in the NFL linebackers, defensive linemen that are running 4.3, 4.2 40s, like that is scary athleticism. And that starts with how they came into college, how they're leaving high school. I can honestly say my high school team, if we were playing in today's athletic standards, holy crap, would we have been unstoppable. And we were already unstoppable.
You're right. There's so much more parity because of everything you just said. My dad, who's a 74 graduate of Notre Dame, so he saw good Notre Dame football and dominant Notre Dame football.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he knew Rudy or something like that.
No, he didn't,
Dang
unfortunately.
Dang it.
He was a senior when Montana was a freshman, and he wasn't even on campus anymore when Rudy existed. But he always tells me, he's like, he just randomly, he'll be just like, I can't believe the size of players today. When he was at Notre Dame, average weight of the offensive line, that was an offensive lineman. 6'3", 270. And it's like, that's a linebacker now. The times have changed so much, but it's changed for everybody, not just the top programs. So there is more parity, and it does make it harder. So that's why recruiting is way more important than coaching at the end of the day.
No, I disagree 100%. At some point, you have to have execution, right? You can't have USC with a bunch of 5 stars that under Lane Kiffin that don't know what the fuck they're doing. You cannot have that.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
You have to have execution. You have to have cohesion.
If they don't know what they're doing, is that on coaching or the player?
Well, it's on coaching. No, of course it's on coaching, right? That's why I always talk about coaching and coaching win percentages and things of that nature, right? And that is the one thing that I'm very apprehensive. I mean, I've gone back ever since 2005, 2000, whatever, and I've looked at every coach who has won the national championship and how long it took them to get there. And I'm not saying Marcus Freeman can't do it, but what I'm saying is he would have to break every mold out there to be successful in the first 2 years.
I completely agree. With coaching, but I've gotten slammed when I've been critical of the coaches, and drives me crazy. Like, well, the players have to execute. Well, the coaches got to prepare them.
Whose fault is that, though? Like, why did they not execute? That's my point, right? I mean, obviously, there's a level of effort, that's involved, and Nick Saban went on, public record basically saying that he had guys that were kind of half-assing it or were, just feeling sorry for themselves or whatever, and that's why they lost, which, okay, take that for what it is. But the point I'm making is you have to have a coach that's at least putting them in a position. Let's go the other way. We had Jalen Smith on our team in 2015. Why the F was our defense so bad? It's because our dumb defensive coordinator was a dipshit and didn't put him and the rest of the defense in a good position. Right? You got defensive linemen that are like dropping back in fucking pass coverage, right? Like, no. Okay. So that's the over complexity and the insanity that was Brian Van Gorder. Okay. So my point is, yes, and I agree with you guys. You need good players. It's an arms race. It's the new arms race. And I think Marcus Freeman realizes that, is tapping into that, and that is why he is pursuing it. I'm just saying a couple other things. Number one, he can't do that all year, which I don't think he will. We'll see as he gets into spring ball and summer camp and all that shit. Recruiting will kind of simmer down. And we will be developing our players, and that's why he's brought in these, other coaches to empower them. But at the same time, you have to find cohesion. You have to find your system. You have to find an identity. And I'm going to be the first one out here, and I was talking to Dos Leprechauns about this, and we both came to the conclusion that if Notre Dame does not have an impressive season next year, both him and I are not going to be surprised. If the first 2 years of Marcus Freeman are less than ideal, less than 10 wins, maybe even less than 8 wins, I won't be surprised, because if you look at all these other coaches who have won titles, their first couple years as a head coach were not very good. And some of them were at very good programs.
I think we've reached the nature versus nurture part of college football, especially encapsulated here at Notre Dame. I think it is a little bit of both. Now, what is the degree or percentage from one to the other? I think the recruiting aspect is, let's find the innate talent. Let's find those 5-star blue chip athletes. But I think, and I got this from the press conference, it's not just the pure athleticism. Obviously, it's Notre Dame, so there's got to be an intellectual side to it to meet the scholastic requirement. Then there's, what is the person's character? Are they going to fit into the type of player, the mentality, the work ethic, the character that's involved to be a Notre Dame football player? So when you think about that, you have to be intelligent. You have to be able to work in that kind of ego, checked at the door mentality and environment that you're getting already from this coaching staff, from top down. So when you look at that side, you got to find the nature side of things from that. But then it's the nurture side is, okay, now I've got Harry Heastand. Now I've got Al Golden. Now I've got guys who have been there, done that. You get somebody, and yes, he doesn't have the experience, but somebody like Chauncey Stuckey has the innate talent so he can relate. And I think that relatability that Tommy Rees has, that Chauncey Stuckey has, that Dylan McCullough is going to bring, I think that is going to be where that nurture side comes in, is, hey, I've been there. I've done that.
I think we should talk about Chauncey Stuckey, because let's face it, guys. I mean, I think no one that's listening to this show, or no one who's going to listen to this on the podcast version, is going to disagree when we say that the weakness, quote unquote weakness, of our offense last few seasons has been the wide receiver core. No one's going to disagree with that. And so now that Chauncey Stuckey's coming in from Baylor, okay, a team that actually threw less passing touchdowns than Notre Dame last year, makes me go like, okay, well, why did we bring this guy in? And I'm not saying he's going to do a bad job, and I don't say that to put him down or anything like that. I know nothing of the guy, and I have looked very, very little at what he did at Baylor. I know he was at Clemson before that, okay? Maybe when he was at Baylor had really, really bad wide receivers because they all went to, Texas A&M or whatever. And Chauncey Stuckey actually took these 2- and 3-star guys and made them perform at a 4-star level. I don't know. And maybe Marcus Freeman is aware of this. And so next season is going to be awesome when Tyler Buckner's throwing all these passes to these guys. Great. The point I'm making is, did we really go out and get the best wide receivers coach? I don't know. I mean, all we have is the news articles that we read and the stats that we can look up. The stats say that Chauncey Stuckey and Baylor in particular did not score as many receiving touchdowns as some of these other teams, including Notre Dame.
But that's also Baylor, 1 year of coaching at that position as wide receiver coach. And Baylor came out of nowhere. And who did they beat near the end of the season?
Well, they also have Dave Aranda, who's a very, very good head coach.
And their quarterback situation was kind of a...
Yes, resident Texan. I think you're an expert on this, right?
Yeah, in Waco. Waco's too far from me. Waco, my apologies to Texas. Well, no, it was supposed to be Bohannon. Then he sucked. Then they had the why am I drawing a blank?
It's because you've been drinking beer.
Clearly, it don't matter. The other guy, the white guy, and then
that narrows it down.
And then it comes back to Bohannon. Like, it was what Baylor had, And again, I'll ask the rhetorical question. I'll be that guy. I'll be the rhetorical question guy. 5 Foot Nothin pod, rhetorical questions. Could it get any worse at receiver? from the coaching perspective? Could it be
No.
worse than Del Alexander?
I was shocked that Della Alexander stayed at Notre Dame as long as he did.
I mean, how many receivers, number one, are not going to produce like we expect them to? How many receivers are only going to flash for a year? And you're sitting there going, we had that on our roster for 2 years before we ever saw him? How is that possible?
Yep.
Well, and here's the other side to
Javon
it, too,
McKinley is a perfect example.
Miles Boykin.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
We had that dude for 1 year. How
Pretty much.
is it?
Boykin Claypool together for 1 year? Come on.
That's fair to us as fans.
No, I get it. But also, I think when it comes to Chauncey Stuckey, I think it's the credibility he's going to bring as a receiver who got to the NFL. And he had 2 years with the Jets, 2 years with the Browns, and 1 year with the Arizona Cardinals. So
Winning
I look
programs.
at it as,
Winning programs.
no,
Yes.
I'm looking at he got to that level.
No, I
And
know.
as a player-
I'm just poking
As
fun
a player,
at.
I'm going to.
He got kind of a raw
Absolutely.
deal there.
I'm going to take the raw buy-in that the players, the recruits that are coming in this year, next year, is he played at the level I want to get to, and he is here coaching me up.
Is there a
And-
cultural thing going on here? Because I'm seeing like Al Golden,
Yeah.
Stuckey, even Reese for crying out loud. A lot of these guys,
McCullough.
all of these
McCullough.
guys have had some fingers, in the NFL pot. Is this now like a theme that we need to do, or is this just something that Marcus is tapping in because he's got his fingers on the pulse of these recruits because he knows that they see Notre Dame as kind of this transitional period to get to the pros?
Well, whether you
Who's doing the dishes? Good grief.
however you want to find it, whether it's NFL experience, whatever it might be. Talking about Kentucky specifically, kid. I say kid. He is a kid. I'm older than him. He's a kid. Kid played at Clemson, went back and coached at Clemson briefly. And my buddy Casey is off. My buddy Casey went to Clemson, and me and him talk all the time. There are so many similarities to Clemson Notre Dame. I said it earlier on this space right now. I said earlier, there's a culture thing happening at Clemson that is very relatable to Notre Dame that we can't relate to Georgia and Alabama and LSU and all those Southern folk. We can't connect in that way, but we can with a institution, a program like Clemson, and Stuckey comes from that mold. So there is a culture thing that Freeman is trying to implement that I think can be very mirror image like to Dabo Swinney and what he's created at Clemson. And you know what? If that's what it ends up being, bring it on.
Well, we're about an hour and a half in, guys. We've touched a lot of things talking about these coaches, their impact, and even some high level stuff, and even all the way down to our favorite players' jerseys. It's been a really, really good show. I don't want to cut us all off yet, but we should probably start winding this down while I still have some phone battery life here as we're connected up to Twitter.
Did Justin ever want to speak?
Yeah, I did want to cut in. I
Go for
appreciate. Yeah, no, I enjoy. I follow you guys on Twitter, and I'm a diehard Notre Dame fan. 36 years old. That's my wife's sitting here. She knows that I'm psycho. I love it. The one point I love talking about the recruiting. I know that we're right there, and really the only team out there that's been able to overcome some above mediocre quarterback play and win a national championship's been Alabama, in my opinion.
Yep.
I am just not as sold as it seems like a lot of the Twitterverse is with Tyler Buckner. And my point behind it is usually a guy that's someone that's really special, like, a Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, some of these guys. If he's that special, why didn't he take this job right away? And that's my only drawback is like when special dudes hit the field, they take the job. And maybe it's a bit of Brian Kelly not allowing that to happen.
Didn't BK try to give it to him during that Virginia Tech game? He tried.
And that's my only drawback. I want to believe in Tyler Buchner, but that is a drawback that maybe you guys can speak on.
I still think with Tyler Buchner,
true freshman,
he's true freshman, and I feel like to your point, Justin, the detractors. Oh, I don't know about Tyler Buchner. We haven't even seen everything from Tyler Buchner, and I don't want to be dismissive of what we did see, but I feel like Brian Kelly plays such a bigger role than maybe we want to admit. And the handcuffs he put on Tommy Rees, which in turn put handcuffs on Tyler Buchner, and he became like a package guy and everything. And in the history, we've seen it how many times? I know you have. If you're on Twitter, Justin, we've all seen it. Look through the history of all the quarterbacks that have come through Notre Dame under Brian Kelly. Find me the one that either lived up to expectations,
actually stayed and graduated and shit and didn't transfer.
Exactly.
I guess that'd be Ian Book, right?
Or stayed and got better.
There's three of them.
And even Ian Book. I mean, it was so obvious what his
Book, Reese, and Kaiser.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't think being negative on Tyler Buchner is completely fair to Tyler Buchner at this point, but I can see it from your perspective in that what we have seen doesn't look that promising. I will admit that. It doesn't look like, oh, he's definitely the guy. But I also think in my heart of hearts that we haven't seen everything he offers, and it has nothing to do with him. It's outside forces.
Yeah, and I was a college athlete. I played college baseball, and it's
what position?
I was a utility guy in college. I played shortstop in high school.
You said utility, and my brain went to like electrician or something. But okay, thank you for clearing that up.
I played right field, left field, short, and second in college.
There you
go. But what I was saying was that the jump from high school to college is ridiculously underrated. So that's why I'm still on the Buchner wagon. My point is the Trevor Lawrences of the world, they're super speciel, and we've all.
And those guys are unique, and I think a dime a dozen, quite frankly. Johnny Manziel. I like comparing Buchner to him only because of the electricity that Johnny Football brought to Texas A&M in 2012. And it also puts a kind of a pain in everyone's ass because he got the Heisman and Manti Te'o didn't. Regardless, and so that kind of annoys me, but I won't speak for everyone else. But let's face it, Manziel brought so much electricity to that team, and A&M is, the reason why Alabama lost one game that season. Buchner brings that level of electricity. Now, did he have the speed and probably the passing ability and some of the other, X factors that Manziel had? Probably not, clearly. But at the same time, let's look at it another way. If Manziel was on Notre Dame's squad, would Kelly have played him? And I think you have to pause on that question, based off of the thing. Now, what really...
Especially with Jack Cohn coming in.
Right, and you have this experienced guy who I referred to him as Iceman and Buckner as Maverick, right? You have two dichotomies, two polar opposites here. You know, we're making Top Gun references because it's fun and cool. But the thing that I want to mention here, and we should probably start wrapping things up because my phone's going to die, is we didn't see Buckner at all in that third quarter of that Fiesta Bowl, which pissed me off. And I went on, I'm pretty sure, a rant in the post-game show about that, of what a fucking stupid idea that was.
Sure.
Do you all think Tyler Buckner is much different from Ian Book?
I think he's much different.
That's where I'm coming from. Is it's
faster.
Seem the same to me.
We saw very little of Buckner. We saw very little of him. We all wanted to see more. But I almost felt like, at times, he almost felt like a deer in headlights. At times, and maybe I'm off there.
Well, and we didn't even see Book until what is it, Game 4 of 2018. Prior to that, we had seen him only in like the spring game and then like mop up duty. Okay.
Yeah.
He did come in, I think, for a brief period in the Miami game when we were getting killed down in Hard Rock, right? So, like, I think that would be a great question to ask in 2 years.
Yeah.
I think he's got a much better arm than Ian Book, and he's a much better runner. And hope the recruiting services are right, because if you listen to people like that Tom Lugaville and some of the other recruiting people, they were predicting he was going to take that job from Jack Cohn like mid-season. And
I thought you should have had it from the beginning.
It's almost like they held him back. Like they didn't let him throw more.
They didn't.
How about in the bowl game? We didn't even see him.
Yep.
No, you're right.
How is someone going to take a job when...
And he had a year off. He didn't play his senior year. They didn't have football. So I think that kind of played into it with Brian Kelly.
Almost like he was scared to play him just because he didn't play football.
Yep. 100%. That's what it seemed like. But when he throws that ball, I saw him throw it at Navy. When he whips it, he's got some speed. Book never had that. So he's definitely different than Book, for sure.
He's definitely hopefully going to be better than
Well,
Book.
and Mike Mayer is on record saying that Tyler Buckner can make all of the throws now.
Yeah, but when you treat him like a wildcat quarterback, it really doesn't matter.
Bingo.
Yep.
Bingo.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's almost like BK was trying to give him the job in that Virginia Tech game. He was trying. Remember at halftime? Like, you're going to see more. And he threw that one interception, and that was the end of that.
No, it was, yes, but he jumped and fucked up his ankle.
But I also credit that to the offensive line being in complete flux at that time.
Yeah, you guys are right. Remember how bad the line was until the second half of the year.
Yeah.
All valid points. All valid points. I mean, we could probably have a complete show just around Tyler Buckner. You know what? Hey, here's what we're gonna do, because I'm at 5% battery, guys. And the show will end. So this is what we're gonna do. I'm handing the baton off to 5 Foot Nothin Pod. Well, actually, he has his own show. He can do whatever the hell he wants. So. But what I will say is this: if we want to continue this conversation on a 5 Foot Nothin Pod space, let's do that. I guarantee you, though, on the Fighting Irish Faithful show, come the fall, because I don't do too much in the off season, right? We will have a show dedicated just to Tyler Buckner.
I love it.
If you want to talk about defense, get the hell out, right? So I'm making a note right now. TB12, we're getting buck wild in the fall.
Oh, and I am planning on hopefully being at the spring game on April 23rd.
Oh.
Gold.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I've already got it on my
One last
calendar.
thing, guys.
I'm going to see what I can do to be there.
Hey, one last thing, guys, on everything you guys are talking about. I think we all agree that, honestly, the only thing that's been missing from this team the last 7, 8, 9 years is quarterback play. We just are a quarterback away from winning this, and if Buckner can be that guy,
Yep.
we will be winning.
Ever since Clausen left, I've been hearing that, and we thought it was going to be Wimbush. We thought it was going to be Golson, and it didn't quite pan out. I thought Kaiser had the tools to do it. Kaiser, I thought just fuck, man. Don't talk to me about 2016. We'll go to a very dark place. All right, gents. Last go around. Justin sent you a Twitter follower at Roush. Sorry, Roush 11 on the Twitter. Sent you a follower there. Adam sent you a follower at Adam Dowling 1. Thank you for your contributions. Craig, I think we've followed each other for a while, at CanGoLRX on the Twitter. Coach Barcedian, Jason Yeager, the Wookiee was on here earlier, and my co-host Red Snapper 9098, my brother, and then also 5 Foot Nothin Pod 100 Nothin. This is the Fighting. I'm screwing this up too. The Fighting 5 Foot Irish Nothin Faithful Show, the joint show we wanted to give you all last week, and here it is now. So we're gonna do some editing, some show prep. I don't know what we're gonna do, but I'm going dark after this. I will do a post spring game show because why not? And then I'll come back probably in August after that. So. Any other thoughts for anyone else?
Dante Moore.
Go ahead, Craig.
I say maybe by then we'll have Dante Moore.
That's what's up.
or Vizazzi, right? How do you say it? The other quarterback. Anyway.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Go Irish.
Go Irish.
Peace out.
Go Irish. Thank you for hosting this. I appreciate it. We did get it done tonight. And I will have a solo show by the end of this month.
We're gonna hold you to that.
Please do.
Everyone harass 5 Foot Nothin Pod on Twitter. Be like, "Where's your show? Where's your show?"
I will gladly jump back on and be a fellow co-host if you so want me.
Oh, I'll jump on. I'm just saying that, like, I'm gonna be a contributor. I'm not gonna be publishing shows, right?
There you go.
I'll jump on Twitter and I'll have my like Bluetooth. We won't have the custom mic.
Well, I do appreciate you getting this going and setting it up. Sorry it couldn't happen last week. But
hey, daddy duty.
Never apologize for taking care of your family. Absolutely not. No, you did the right thing. You're doing what you got to do.
And tonight I'm taking care of my Achilles with some sort of weird ass bracelet I bought last night at CP.
You bought a bracelet?
A brace.
I heard bracelet.
It actually, well, it'd be weird on my wrist, but I guess I could try. It was advertised according to the box.
Is that one of those like copper things?
No, dude, I'll send you a picture.
Copper fit?
No.
Maybe that's what you need.
It's
a strap ankle brace.
I might. I don't know. It's advertised as the plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
Ice and heat, man. That's all you need. Ice and heat.
I'm only wearing it because I bought the damn thing, and I'm not about to be out $30-something just because I woke up feeling fine. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, put it back on your leg while you sleep. That way your muscles can relax.
All
right. I bought the thing, and I did wear it last night. And then I woke up, and my Achilles didn't hurt at all. And I
saw that.
And I'm like, no, I'm still good. And I went through the
It's
whole
because you were healed by Jesus. All right, we're cutting this off. I'm losing my phone. I'm at literally 3% battery. I'm surprised it's lasting this long. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This has been a great year. 2021 is officially over, clearly, because it's 2022. It's February. But this is the last show of Season 2 of the Fighting Irish Faithful Show, and we're closing it out with a joint show. This show will continue to do new adventurous things just like this, where we bring other people on together, joint shows. Really, really great talking with everyone. Love the interaction. I definitely want to keep this going. into next season. And next season, we got all the new coaches. That's what we talked about. New head coach, and good stuff's happening at Notre Dame. Things can only go up and up from here. But don't be surprised if we hit a couple bumps along the way. Thank you to my co-hosts. This is the Fighting Irish Faithful Show, the 5 Foot Nothin podcast, the Fighting 5 Foot Irish Nothin Faithful Show. I'm reading it right in front of me on the paper. I'm still fucking it up, so. Gee whiz. Thank you, everyone. Good night, and go Irish.
5 Foot Nothin, 100 nothing. Out.